What is that one thing that's going to be the driver of extraordinary results in your life and in your business? I'm so excited for this one, especially when you're starting out in those early days. Until my one thing is done, everything else is a distraction.
It's time to reinvent.
Welcome to the Lessons of Entrepreneurship, the Journey of Reinvention podcast, formerly known as the Reinventing Perspectives podcast. I'm so excited for today. Today is one of those where you have just me as part of our Leaders Are Readers series. If you didn't know, we cover the best-selling business, entrepreneurship, mindset books that other people out there are saying, if you are an entrepreneur, are peer recommended. I'm so happy you're here. Let's dive in. Today's book comes highly recommended. I know you have heard of this book if you haven't read it already. The One Thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. Achieve your goals with one of the world's best-selling success books by Gary Keller. The One Thing. What is that one thing that's going to be the driver of extraordinary results in your life and in your business? I'm so excited for this one. So when I started reading this book, I'd heard of the concept of what is your one thing, but I really couldn't narrow down what is the one thing, because I feel as entrepreneurs, let me know how you feel. Send me a message or put a comment on our YouTube channel. Let me know how you feel. It seems like there's so many things to do. Understanding what is your one thing, it all really seems like it has to be done for everything to come together. I really struggled with pinning down what is the one thing that will drive extraordinary results until I read this book. All right. The question the author, Gary Keller, says, keep asking yourself is, what's the one thing you can do today, this week, this month, this year, whatever the time period? What is the one thing that you can do that's such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? Think about that. The one thing you can do that's such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary. Sounds like a business strategy book to me. Everywhere you look, it's like go big or go home. Do the most. Hustle or grind. What can you get accomplished? How big is your to-do list? How many things are you doing? How many platforms are you on? How many clients are you talking to? It almost seems like the culture of entrepreneurship and business is more. And this author is saying, no. To get extraordinary results, because you can be busy doing a lot of things, but not getting extraordinary results. Hello, I've been there. He says to get extraordinary results, you need to go small. And to him, the definition of going small is ignoring all the things that you could do and only doing what you should do, right? Going small is avoiding distractions. It's a good thing in this sense. He's saying going small is making sure that you're not expending your energy in all these places, moving really slowly because you're spread so thin. We know that burnout, you're spreading yourself so thin to get so many things done. And on the other end of like how productive are you, not looking at how much energy you're expending, there's a mismatch sometimes. Anyway, if that's you, like that's been me, I think you'll really get a lot from reading this book. It really opened up my mind to the idea that how can I go small? How can I focus on the things that I should do and ignore everything else that I could be doing? There's so many opportunities. Everything looks like it's a great idea. Every time you go online, there's something new that you could do that would help your business, or somewhere new that you should be where other people are getting business. You literally can be living in shiny object syndrome. And I've been there, especially when you're starting out in those early days. I think really what it is you're not sure of yourself. Even though you know what you should do, when you see something else, you question if that's not the better way of doing it. And then you get caught up in all these shiny objects. This book, he says, zero in, focus in, and try to go as small as possible. Bring all that big energy that's going into so many places and focus it on one small thing to get extraordinary results. The author says, think about it as a domino effect. Like we said, you've got so many things that you could be doing that would be good for the business, things that are opportunities, but if you put them up, stack up all those ideas into a domino, what is the first domino that if it went down would make everything else easier or really unnecessary for you to do? It's an interesting concept, but it's something that we almost naturally know. You can't be good at everything. You have to become good at one thing and then build on that to leverage that to be good at the next thing. The idea that success is compounding. And if you think about compound interest and how money works, it's a little bit at a time. But that little bit at a time, working really hard over time, becomes something really big and valuable. How do you identify your one thing? Because after I read all of this, and it really made a lot of sense to me, still I'm reading the book and I'm still thinking, but still I don't know my one thing. And I don't know how to identify my one thing because I'm looking at all these things. And really, in all fairness, sometimes they look almost equal. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. One leads to something else and the other leads to something else, which I feel are both equally good. But if you think of this idea of the one thing, I think a lot of famous business visionaries right now have put their own twist on this idea of the one thing. If you think of Alex Hormozi, Alex talks about skill stacking, starting with one skill and becoming really, really good at that one skill, and then leveraging that one skill and then learning another, getting to be a successful entrepreneur by literally building one skill after another sequentially. Another person who talks about this is Patrick Bet-David. I don't know if you've read Your Next 5 Moves. If you haven't, I highly recommend that book. I think he did a fantastic job in that book, especially for shaping your entrepreneurship mind in the beginning of what to expect and how to move in certain instances. Anyway, Patrick Bet-David in The Next 5 Moves, which is the strategy book, once again, he talks about having an idea of what move you're going to take next. It's the same thing as the one thing and the sort of skill stacking in different language. What's going to be your next move? And he says most people think 2 moves out. If I get this done and this becomes successful, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. But he says you need to think at least 5 moves out. Either way, the idea is that at any one point in time, there's only one thing that you're driving in order to get extraordinary results. The interesting addition that Patrick Bet-David adds is that he says that if you think about your next 5 moves as 5 arches, before you come to the top of the first arch, and that arch is about to come to an end, the beginning of another arch is also taking place. As you're getting success and you've reached the pinnacle of one thing, you begin to introduce the next thing. So it's not like you're only doing one thing and then it comes to a standstill. And then what's the next thing? It's moving yourself into a cycle, a sequential cycle. All the same, different words, but it gives you a mental picture and a mental framework of how to think about things that you're doing in your business. Anyway, I ramble, but if I ramble, let me know. Follow us on Instagram, or you can follow us on YouTube where you can leave a comment. Some of the key nuggets from this book. Gary Keller says, don't have a to-do list. Because we all sit down every day and we have a to-do list. And if you're trying to be efficient and effective, you're planning your next day the night before and you know what needs to be done and you're not wasting any time. But he says, rather than just having a list of things to do you have a success list? And he defines this as a list that is purposefully created around extraordinary results. What do you need to do to get to extraordinary results? Do you have that list? And are you working that list every single day? The central message, the central concept of this book, what is that one thing that you can do today, if it's a to-do list, tomorrow or next week if you're planning your week, the one thing that you need to do such that by doing it, everything else would become easier or unnecessary. That's the qualifier of what should be on your success list. And how do you know if you're writing your success list or you're just writing another to-do list? He says your to-do list is full of things. It's never ending. But your success list, should only have a few things. That same idea from Alex Hamosi, if the thing is skill stacking, or Patrick Bet-David says, if it's about knowing what your next 5 moves are, your success list is very small. There's so much supporting evidence scientifically. Pareto's principle: 80% of your results will come from 20% of what you do. So identifying what is that 20% that makes the 80%. But still, you can still be wondering, okay, still, what is that 20%? Right? And he says, be extreme, be radical in questioning what is the outcome of doing this thing. Item by item of the things that you're doing, of the things that you think are part of your success list. What is the outcome that you're expecting for that thing? Be ruthless in what you allow to remain on your success list. This one is for the multitaskers, for those of us who love to multitask. It says, multitaskers are just people who are lousy at everything. And I don't think he's wrong. I mean, when have you ever done something superb, something outstanding, something extraordinary? Not just getting it done, something extraordinary while you were multitasking. I don't know. I haven't. Maybe you have, but I haven't. He says that there's all this idea of discipline, getting you to where you need to go. To become successful, you actually need less discipline than what you think, which for me, I just finished reading Ryan Holiday's Discipline is Key. Love the book. If you haven't read it, you should. And it challenged that the ideas of motivation and discipline, it only goes so far. And what you want is to make it easy for you to succeed. Even though, yes, you do have the discipline and you do have the drive, make it easy for yourself to succeed. That combination of discipline, motivation, hard work, combined with singularity of focus, and that pathway that's been cleared of distractions and shiny objects to get you to extraordinary results is what we're looking for. Now, this idea really struck a chord. He said, time waits for no one. I don't know about you, but it feels like 1 minute we were in January and now we're in May. I don't know when you're listening to this, but still, time is just not waiting for anybody. And he says, now imagine how much longer it will take you to get to where you're going if you're trying to do a whole bunch of go big or go home things. Whereas you could compress time by going small and reach that extraordinary result faster. Prioritize. Be a person of habit. Create the habit of working on your success list. And I think for new entrepreneurs, sometimes we know what we need to do to get to where we're trying to go. You're building a business, all those things you really don't want to do that you know that if you did do them would lead to your business becoming successful, and you're just trying to circumvent the process somehow. Whereas if you face those things that you don't know, got that knowledge that you need, started doing that hard thing that's going to get you the results that you need, so that everything else, all the little things that we tinker about with and all the little things that take up all our time and drive us crazy become irrelevant, we would win the game. We had a guest who spoke to us about winning the moments. And I think that idea about winning the moments really lines up well with this one thing. You have that one thing that will get you to success. Do not avoid it. Do the hard thing that will knock that first domino out in your business, in whatever area of your life. Because he said this is not just for business, in the different areas of life, in your relationship. The tough things that you need to face head on to have a great relationship, or in your family, the tough things you need to confront so that you can have a great relationship, so that all those little squabbles become unnecessary. Bring it to every aspect of your life. Knock that hard thing out. Put all your energy into it. Do not avoid it. Understand what's going to make you successful. And it's interesting because now that I think about the various aspects of life, everybody knows what it takes to have a successful business. We know what we need to do to have successful relationships. We know what we need to do to have successful finances, and we avoid. We try to do all the little bits and pieces that seem like they're easy and go overdrive in those things, when what we should do is address the one main thing. And he says, which is funny, remember at the beginning I said, he says, go small. Get rid of all the distraction, all the shiny objects. We just want to identify the one thing. Then he says, in that one thing, that small thing, think big. He says, don't think about, oh, how can I improve a little bit, or how can I go from 10% to 12%? He says, no, think big. Think so big that you don't know how to get there in that one thing. In doing that, you guarantee that you'll meet your goal. The other way that the author says to think about the idea of the one thing is, remember from the definition, what's the one thing that I can do, that small thing, the one thing, no distractions, that's going to get me to success, that small thing that I'm going to think big about and I'm going to act boldly on, such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary. This is going to be the ultimate leverage that I'm going to need to get me to where I'm trying to go. He says, I actually think I'm going to do this, write this down somewhere, that on my computer, probably above my computer. Until my one thing is done, everything else is a distraction. And really focus on building that habit of doing that one thing. James Clear in Atomic Habits talks about this. The author references F.M. Alexander. People do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. If we get into the habit of being all over the place or trying to do multiple things all the time, we create little spots of success in different things. And there's no domino, there's no leverage for us to get those extraordinary results. There's enough light here and light there and light there that we're pretty good at that. But what we want is to be extraordinary at something, especially as entrepreneurs and small business owners. We spend so much time, energy, emotion, psychologically trying to accomplish these goals and trying to build businesses that serve people. And the last thing we want is to be overstretched, burnt out, and unsuccessful in the process. Anything that we can do to maximize our ability to succeed, even if that means for now shelving a lot of the things that we could do and just focusing on what we should do. Even if you think about it, it's creating a name for yourself in a certain space, in a tiny, tiny niche, creating a name for yourself in that niche. I can't remember her name now. I don't know if you've heard the quote, the niche will lead to the blow up. The niche will lead you to blowing up. That's what we're looking for as entrepreneurs and small business owners. We need some leverage to help us to get to the next place with ease and to make certain things unnecessary. Too much hustle, too much struggle, to make certain things unnecessary by first proving ourselves somewhere that we can get extraordinary results. And then some practical examples of how we can do this. Gary Keller says, ask great questions. If you ask great questions, you will stumble onto great answers. Ask a big and specific question. So, for example, what can I do to double my sales in 6 months or in 90 days? Very specific and going big. And to find that answer, you'll have to do a lot of thinking, a lot of researching, a lot of speaking to people to help you narrow down on what it is that you can do to put on your success list to get you to that success. I almost wish that this was the previous book on our Lead as a Reader series, because in the previous episode, we talked about the 12-week year, the general concept of the book. Rather than to think of your year in 12 months, compressing it into 12 weeks and really driving for results in those 12 weeks. Now, if we think about having that one thing well defined and then driving for the results in 12 weeks, oh, how powerful is that? I hope that you got something out of listening to this episode. As always, please visit our website, www.reinventingperspectives.com, and grab some of the freebies that we have on the previous books we've read. If you'd like, you can sign up for our free newsletter and you'll get, I think, our past 4 at least Leaders or Readers series write-ups to help you along. You know, developing as an entrepreneur is work. And I think that's part of the reason why I renamed the podcast Lessons of Entrepreneurship, because it's daily learning. If you're not daily learning and you're not becoming who you could be as a business person, as an entrepreneur. And it's that journey of trying to reinvent yourself, understanding that there are people who have walked these paths and who have ideas and ways of thinking that you can draw from and put your own tweak on it as you go through entrepreneurship and life, and really reinvent yourself as the business person that you see yourself as, or as the person you plan to be, so you can be driven by purpose to make the impacts that you hope to have. And part of that is going to require learning things that you didn't know. A lot of times you don't know what you don't know. Having frameworks for thinking things through that you didn't have, so that at some point all these ideas become second nature and you can see a problem and think it through, because you have exposed yourself to various ways of thinking about things and various ways of accomplishing things. Our audience, listeners of this podcast, I do wish you great success in your journey as entrepreneurs, as faith-driven entrepreneurs, as Christian entrepreneurs, so that you can go out there and make the impact that you desire to have. Once again, thank you for listening in. Thank you for the support. Please keep listening in. Please keep sharing the podcast with people that you think would benefit from us. And do communicate. We do have a YouTube channel, Lessons of Entrepreneurship, The Journey of Reinvention, where you can comment and I can read those comments. Give us feedback. Give it to us how it is so that we can improve and be able to deliver something that's worth high value to you. Thank you.